Well, Mr. Chairman, it was a very interesting presentation, but the question begs to be answered. Have staff had any discussion with senior levels of government as it relates to this problem?
No, Your Worship, we haven't.
Well, you know, this problem of sprawl or outside is cheaper, and that is a big problem. But I think from my perspective now is that when the provincial government starts to get the oar in the water in the Comox Valley as to what's going on up there and wanting to do something, okay, and we are seeing the results of the uplands, or whatever you want to call it, in Lancefield and the foothills or whatever, okay? And this government, or this council, is held for election to write the provincial government seeking the inclusion of the 100 acres in Area A to become within the city boundaries within the Cable Bay development. I think there's an easy answer to solving all these urban problems, is to approach the provincial government seeking a district municipality as it relates to those properties within School District 68 and School District 69. So then we got the control and we got the government control and implementation to activate not only building inspections but development cost charges, and everybody on a much leveler keel, because I think these are one of the problems that they found in Ontario, where they got those mega Toronto has taken all those municipalities and put them under one umbrella, so you got some control over the thing. You know, I think that's the only way you're going to have it, because I can tell you from my experience of sitting on the regional board, you got areas that don't want building inspection, they don't want this, they don't want zoning, they don't want nothing, okay? Well, that's why, you know, you take the shotgun approach and do what the heck you want. I do have, and going back to these 3 recommendations that we are doing now, you know, to expand the urban containment boundary to the city boundaries, I think it's premature, for the simple reason is that you want to, from my perspective and of the sessions that I've attended at conferences and as it relates to planning, you build from the center out. You don't go to the outside and build in. And one of our problems is, you know, even going with this here urban containment boundary to the outside, what's going to happen to the downtown? We're putting in $100 million investment in there. We want the thing to proceed and to deal. But if we're allowing these things to go, these other major developments, to the extremities of our community, then we're going to have a problem with. So I really think that if we're concerned about the peripheral outside our city boundaries, then we make application for a district municipality.
Any comments, Mr. Berry, with regard to the district municipality aspect? Or
well, I think Councillor Sherry's come up with an alternate solution to a problem I've identified. It hadn't occurred to me to, and nor would I recommend such an approach. I'd prefer to go collaboratively within the regional structure, but I understand the intent. Perhaps Councillor Sherry would like to make a motion and we could advance that. That's not something we're recommending.
My comments, Mr. Berry, is that you're going to be talking to the mayors and the senior staff at the region. I hope that you're going to carry this discussion on with the province down there, and especially the way the province has intervened with the problems in the Comox Valley. And it's something that I think should be thrown on the floor as a possibility, just to feel them out.
And what I'm saying, and I want to absolutely clear, Your Worship, because people will be watching, that the City of Nanaimo staff will not be talking to the province about taking over anybody else's jurisdiction without council direction.
Thank you. Councillor Brennan?
I just want to be clear on this one. I'm following up on Councillor Holdham's questions. Can we sequence the development within our own boundaries? Can we prefer one neighborhood over another? Can we say, we're not interested even in looking at that until we get a certain level of density here?
We could have at one time. We could have, absolutely. The legislation allows us to do it, but in the 70s, those decisions, for good and valid reasons at the time, the council, in their wisdom, took a different approach. And many of those decisions I would have been party to. What I'm telling you now is that the world has changed significantly, and those options are largely past.
Okay, I just need to understand this. So if we adopted each one of the recommendations here and we developed or designated the Jingle Pot and in Lindley Valley we already have, and any others, as urban reserve, could we refuse applications solely based on, no, we're not ready to see that developed yet? Not on, now we don't like the look of it.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
However, and because I want to be very clear, because I haven't included this as an option because I don't think it's in the realm of political possibility. But if council was serious about concentric containment within Nanaimo, smaller than the boundary, you can downzone anything you want with proper due process. Council has previously said they wouldn't do that, and I personally believe that, and it's the reason we don't recommend it, Council hasn't got a hope of suggesting that internally, well, we have the kind of problems that we have externally, so it's sequential.
Councillor McNabb, then Matt.
Your Worship, if I may, urban containment boundaries seems to be a real issue here. Why do all cities in Penticton, Kelowna, do they all have urban containment boundaries?
Many do. Sorry. Many do. The Regional District of Nanaimo and the City of Nanaimo are very much leaders, and so when you are a leader, you make mistakes. As I've said, in the City of Nanaimo's case, the urban containment boundaries that council led internally haven't been followed by equivalent changes externally, and therefore it's almost exacerbated the problem. Others do, Larry. A good example that people would be aware of is the City of Richmond, basically on the east side, sorry, Councillor Manab, on the east side of the freeway, historically that's been in reserve, not to be developed.
Well, I'd say Richmond, yeah, it's a little bit different than Nanaimo. The point I'm trying to get is the same people that live in the inside urban containment boundary and the people outside urban containment boundary pay the same taxes, do they?
Within the city, yes.
So when you're outside the containment boundary, you should feel like an outsider?
Only you, Larry.
Oh.
Yes, you're quite correct, and that's one of the reasons we're suggesting going to the boundary. We haven't had the concomitant diligence externally to be able to deal with that for many of the reasons that Council Sherry talks about. I'm saying now Council needs to make that priority, but within the city, and Councillor McNabb makes the point very well, especially in the Jingle Pot area, the philosophy at the time of amalgamation was everybody would get every service. I don't think that was the right philosophy, but it was the philosophy of council of the day. It was what people were told, and so now we're faced with a situation where we're 30 years later and those commitments haven't been addressed. One of the ways to deal with that, if council wants to, and I haven't had anyone say they don't want to deal with those commitments, is to move the UCB and get on with it.
But if I may follow up there, I think we're putting a horse ahead of the cart here, because nobody's even talked about we have water, nobody's even talked about sewer out there. But I just feel that why should a person feel like he's not part of the city when you're paying the same tax and everything else? That's my big problem.
And that, as I say, many of the council members have lived those battles previously. Protection Island's a classic example, exact same argument. They might still make it today.
In fact, I guess it could be argued that if this motion was passed, then that additional discrimination or differentiation between inside and outside would be reduced, although there would still have to be an analysis by the council as to which areas are economically and socially and environmentally appropriate to service, depending on the quality of the application, the density, and all of the amenities that are being proposed.
That's the part I was going to get to, Your Worship. The philosophy in the 70s, from my point of view, was very much equal is equitable, all things to all parties. It never was possible. It costs more to have certain developments developed than others, and so equal could never be equitable.
I think it was Councillor Manhess next.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to answer the question from Councillor Brennan and Councillor Hold'em, we do have a preferred area for development, which is downtown. The City Council have adopted a policy a few years back. There's no development cost charges in downtown. If you want to build condominiums, apartments, or anything, there's no development cost charges in downtown at present, and it's been waived for many years. So I think that is setting a priority, is having no development cost charges. But some of these development that we're talking about will be happening in these new areas cannot happen in downtown. So you can certainly set a sequence, and we did set a sequence that we want to have majority of this density is happening downtown, and that's why the policy was set, and it's been there for many years.
Councillor Hold'em, I think, is next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to put the motion in context here. All of the recommendations address are amendments to the draft official community plan that will go out to public consultation. We're not making a decision to do anything here tonight. We're simply saying this is what we want in the document that we will be asking the public to comment on. The first one, to realign the urban containment boundary. As Council remembers, several months ago, the issue was addressed by the Plan Nanaimo Advisory Committee. We had three options at that point. One was to keep the urban containment boundary as is. The second one was to adjust it somewhat to take in new areas and to exclude ecologically sensitive areas. And the third option we did look at was this very one, which was to extend the urban containment boundary to the city limits. The committee chose and recommended number 2, to make some adjustments to that line. Council agreed with that, and the revised official community plan has been drafted with that in mind for the past 2 or 3 months. However, we were hoping to have it out by now, but with the possibility that we would push the UCB right to the city limits, that was possible, it made it awkward to put forward a official community plan revision that didn't include that. So I think this is, I'm speaking in favor of the motion. I think this is a good thing to put before the public. This is what we want comments on. This would represent the most dramatic change that we could make to the UCB, and this addresses the kind of philosophy that we just heard about in the presentation. So I think we should proceed with 1, 3, and 4. I certainly support item 2 as well, but to remember that we're not going down this road uncompromisingly right now. We're simply starting a process of public consultation with this as the question we're asking the public. Do you want to do this in terms of planning within the community?
Thank you. Is there any further debate with regard to items 1, 3, and 4?
I'd like to deal with item 1 separately as well, please.
Okay, all right. Well, let's deal with item 1. Item 1.
No, my comment is that I think by expanding it to the outside limits is the wrong thing, and I can't support with this full expansion.
Any further debate on item 1? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? I recognize Councillors Cameron, Manhas, Hold'em, Unger, Bestwick, Brennan, McNabb, Mayor Corpin in the affirmative. Councillor Sherry opposed. The motion is carried. Discussion on item 2. This states direct staff to amend the draft official community plan to include policies for an urban reserve designation, and that's in the document that's been circulated earlier, applied to the Lindley Valley and the Jingle Pot neighborhood area. I think Councillor Mann wanted to discuss this one.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just trying to understand what the urban reserve is all about, but now I read the article and their handout from the staff. I'm not sure if they will achieve what we think we want to try to achieve is having a urban reserve label on all of these. Is it technically freezing the development on these areas? And the second is what I understand from the urban reserve is basically you have to have a comprehensive plan for any of the areas. For example, in Jingle Pot area, I can't see that happening with so many owners. I can certainly understand from Cable Bay development because that's one owner owning so many pieces and so much land. Whereas in Jingle Pot, I can't see it. So maybe staff can make me understand that what is behind the thinking of how are we going to get all these owners to get together and come up with a plan that will satisfy the staff and satisfy the council with that many owners, because we've been trying to do that for Lindley Valley for many years, and every time the application comes forward from one of the owners and our answer is we turn it down, that it has to go back and come up with a comprehensive plan. So maybe is this just a one step, or is this something the staff can answer and help me with making the decision?
Councillor Manhas, certainly that is a huge challenge when you're dealing with multiple property owners, and I would tend to think of it more of a neighborhood planning type of exercise that the city leads in the Jingle Pot area, or maybe even in the Lindley Valley, but specifically in the Jingle Pot area, it would be more of a neighborhood planning exercise led by city staff that incorporates how we can incrementally service the lands in the neighborhood and how we can densify and introduce mixed uses into that neighborhood. If I could take this opportunity too, it's important to note that the recommendation is to provide an urban reserve designation. It also includes providing a resource protection designation for all the environmentally sensitive areas that would become part of the city within the UCB.
Just follow up. So I just want to be clear, because I think I can support what you just said about it would be the neighborhood plan, but led by the city itself in the Jingle Pot area or in Lindley Valley. Am I understanding that correct? Because sorry, and before you answer that, because in the past at the Lindley Valley, I always understood it was up to the owners and the developers to come forward with a plan that this is what they want to do in 8 or 10 owners that we have at Lindley Valley. We wanted them to come forward with a plan, and then we would support it. So I just want to make sure that I understand that correctly.
Your Worship, ultimately it's Council's decision how we want to approach this. This is actually your control on how you incrementally develop or provide development rights within the community. If Council believes that this is a priority, then we can have it as a work plan item and staff can lead the discussion. Alternatively, if the landowners get together and come forward and provide us with Council with enough information, they can lead the review process. So it's just a matter of what Council would like to do.
Thank you, Your Worship. Basing on those comments, I will be supporting the item 2 as well, Your Worship.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to staff, what's the difference between the urban reserve that you're wanting to put on here than the current outside the urban containment boundary?
The specific difference, as Mr. Berry outlined, is that you would be taking away, in effect, their ability to develop under existing rights, that it would freeze subdivisions, it would freeze any upzonings or that sort of thing until a comprehensive plan came forward.
So therefore, the property owners